This is SelfWork, and I'm Dr. Margaret Rutherford. At SelfWork, we discuss psychological and emotional issues and what you can do about them, whether that's learning self-acceptance, taking action, or seeking therapy or treatment. 10 years ago, I extended the walls of my practice to reach those of you who might already be knowledgeable about mental health treatment, but also to those of you who might say you'd never darken the door of a therapist. And yet, you are here. I'll answer your questions while I invite you to take a few minutes for your own self-work. If it keeps happening, then perhaps it's because you're not learning the lesson about yourself that's important for you to learn. It's far healthier to objectively look at your part. Again, not to blame yourself too harshly, but to identify the things about your decision-making or your needs or your tendency to overlook something that set you up for disillusionment and then grief and heartbreak. Welcome to this week's edition of SelfWork. Disillusionment happens when something you desire or believe strongly is true and right, something that you've worked hard to create or to build, crashes into a harsh reality. And what's left is a wreck of immense proportions, a mess of shattered hope, of questioning your very being sometimes. Whether it's betrayal within a relationship, a loss of belief in someone you've greatly admired, realizing a goal that you thought would bring you happiness or fulfillment will never bring what you thought it would bring, the grief you feel can be immense. So many of my clients through the years have been disillusioned, demoralized people, having reached a level of pain in their hearts and very souls that feels overwhelming. This isn't mental illness. It's horrific sadness and loss that can jar your very ability to think. You can want to stop life for a bit. It can feel inconsolable. And it can morph into a clinical depression. But it's a normal human response. That's the focus for SelfWork this week. The voicemail for this week may be close to this dilemma. It's from a woman who doesn't see the same effort from a man she's been with for 9 months. She just doesn't see the effort that he put in at first and asks me about it. First, let's hear from BetterHelp. The most common problem I hear from those seeking therapy is how hard it is to find a therapist, how long it takes, how vulnerable you feel asking around for names. BetterHelp solves those problems. After you make the first contact, their standard is to offer names of therapists to you in less than 2 days. And you can talk to them in a first session to see if it's a good fit. If so, you're on your way. But if not, rather than going through something awkward, you simply let BetterHelp know, and they'll ask what it was you didn't like and find someone else for you. You can text, chat, or talk virtually. All of those avenues are open to you. I'm a therapist because I got good therapy. I'd had no idea how much I could benefit from it, but I knew I wasn't seeing myself or my world clearly. Here's BetterHelp's offer for SelfWork listeners, 10% off your first month of sessions if you use this link, betterhelp.com/selfwork. You know, they say the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago, but the next best is today. It's never too late to reach out and get help. betterhelp.com/selfwork. I wanted to be an opera singer. I loved classical music and had taken all the music classes I could take in college that were in music, thinking that I'd be a double major. My parents, especially my mom, was very much against that plan, so it didn't happen. But I never gave up on the opera initiative until one day in Aspen, Colorado. I'd gotten into the esteemed Aspen Summer Music School, which was a pretty good goal to reach. But I was surrounded by people who were truly opera-bound. And because of that, I had to face a hard truth. Not only did those folks know their own arias intimately, they knew the entire scores of multiple operas. They knew everyone else's arias and could talk about the plots and the intricacies of different composers' styles. They lived and breathed opera. And well, I did not. Frankly, I was good enough to be part of the chorus, but I'd never be good enough to star in the show. I remember standing in front of this beautiful little stream in Aspen, and I cried some very hard tears. I was 24 and lost. I'd been engaged. That hadn't worked out. Now my career as a diva vanished before my eyes. I actually thanked the woman who was my teacher there. She gave me her honest assessment of my not-so-hot potential. It was what I needed to hear, although unwelcome at first. I was heartbroken and disillusioned, not knowing where I was supposed to go next, and having a hard time trusting my own judgment. I'd spent a lot of time and energy toward this pursuit, only to realize it was never going to happen. And at this point, I've sat in many sessions with people who are reeling from realizing that they may have done something similar. The psychology literature calls disillusionment a belief collapse, and that's exactly what it feels like your very soul is imploding into itself. Some kind of illusion is being broken by the facts that have come much more into focus, forcing your mind to see fact instead of what you may want to see. If it's a relationship, it could be, I thought I could trust you. I believed you when you said, or I've gone to battle for you and now I don't know why. There can be anger with yourself, anger with the person who's at the source of your disillusionment. You can ask yourself, how did I miss the signs? They were all around me. You likely feel mentally and physically exhausted, and at its worst, you can actually feel emotionally unsafe, very vulnerable, and fearful. But disillusionment can happen elsewhere, not only in a relationship. You can learn facts about someone or something that are so jarring, it's like a tsunami hits your brain or your heart and destroys what you believe to be real. It can come from realizing that someone you followed, whether you actually knew them or not, someone whose words you allowed to sink into your heart, who may have guided your actions, a minister, a politician, an influencer, but also maybe family members, a grandmother, a brother. But what you realize is you find out something you didn't know about them that shoves them off the pedestal you had them on, and you're devastated. What's also shocking at times is how the very thing they preached against, or they swore on whatever religious symbol meant something to them, that those things were evil and bad. And they are, in fact, evil and bad. But the preacher or the politician or the brother, whomever, were guilty of exactly the crime that they'd railed against as despicable, even unforgivable. You can find lots of posts on celebrities or very well-known people who quickly slid into the mud when their true colors were discovered. Some for reasons that are truly disgusting and abusive, think Bill Cosby or Kanye. Some because how they treated others wasn't at all the same as their image dictated, think Ellen DeGeneres or Alex Baldwin. Or they pissed off their fan base and were deserted or ghosted in return. Dixie Chicks come to mind. You may still believe in some of these folks, and maybe some of them didn't deserve how they were treated, but the fall was sudden and swift. Maya Angelou, who I've greatly admired over the years, said, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. That seems like such wise and maybe even easy to follow advice, but we don't do it. Why? Especially if you're becoming romantically or sexually involved, you're seeing the other person through the haze of lust and excitement, maybe even promise. That's called the halo effect. Then there's the justification that can come. Well, he got too mad about that, but I know he had a lot on his plate that day, and wouldn't anybody have gotten mad? Maybe, but they wouldn't have put a fist through the wall or cussed somebody out for no good reason. And of course, there's believing that someone has potential. You begin telling yourself a story about who they could become if they were just loved well enough, like you can provide. She's just never had a person who didn't sleep around on her. Of course she's going to have trust issues. That may be true, but healing has to begin within her. And when she texts every hour or blows up when she sees an Instagram picture of you with some friends, and some of those friends are girls, that's her wound to heal. Disillusionment can become its own problem if and when you don't realize your part in what happened. Whether it's not being mature enough or aware enough to notice when you're becoming dependent on that person too much, for example, or you don't know what you believe, so too easily you adopt the beliefs of someone else. But, or should I say and, that doesn't mean that you won't feel grief for having to work through that disillusionment and belief implosion or collapse. But the best cure for disillusionment is to use it to help you grow. It almost forces you to do that in many cases because the pain can be so great. I'm not talking about blame here. I don't think it's all that healthy to wallow in self-blame or other blame because you won't grow. You won't use this experience to evolve. So first you want to realize that disillusionment is a normal human emotion and experience. When you stop and think about it, the whole Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy thing is something that you experienced disillusionment about if your parents did indeed share a little fantasy with you as a child about the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus. Elf on the Shelf is a darker version of that, I guess. I've had some parents tell me that they regretted ever getting started on that journey, so they got disillusioned about the elf themselves. So let's take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. For some, summer is their favorite season. Travel picks up, kids are out of school, and adventure is the focus. But for others, juggling it all can be tough and can lead to overwhelm and counting down the minutes until the kids are back in school, while others worry they're wasting the days of sunshine. Therapy can seem like something that has to wait until the fall when things become more routine once again. But that's the wonderful thing about BetterHelp. You're not tied down to going to someone's office. You can talk to your therapist while you're driving. You can text as the kids are down for a nap or visiting with grandma and granddad. You can have a virtual session from anywhere that has Wi-Fi. So your own self-care, or as I like to say, your self-work, doesn't have to stop. You don't have to just survive the summer. You can thrive. As added reassurance, BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. You get the freedom of virtual therapy while not sacrificing quality. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer. Find support in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com. That's better, HELP.com. Let's talk about a different kind of disillusionment for a minute. Some of the damage that I hear from now adult children came from parents who didn't allow or support their children's dreams. I want to be a ballerina, or I want to be a professional basketball player, or I want to have my own cooking show, whatever. And the parents use the excuse of, I don't want you to grow up thinking you're special. Life's hard, so just accept that. I wonder about whether that harsh slap on the wrist, no, don't reach for that, you'll never make it, comes from a parent whose own disillusionment with life is something that has grown into bitterness. I more than realize that there are more obstacles to that kind of success that have to do with discrimination or poverty or lack of opportunity. Yet there are people who've beaten those odds. Yet their road is harder, sometimes much harder. But to grow up completely disillusioned about any chance of life being good before you even get old enough to try, I'm glad that there are people that we could all admire who fought that fight and who can offer hope. But to get back to what to do with disillusionment about a relationship, about a job, about someone you looked up to, there's nothing abnormal about that. If it keeps happening, then perhaps it's because you're not learning the lesson about yourself that's important for you to learn. It's far healthier to objectively look at your part of what happened. Again, not to blame yourself too harshly, but to identify the things about your decision-making or your needs or your tendency to overlook something, all of those things that set you up for disillusionment and then grief and heartbreak. Then there's one other thing I can recommend. Give your grief meaning. What do I mean by that? Decide how you want your grief to affect you or those around you in a positive way. We see people do this all the time when someone they love dies, and their grief leads them to start a foundation to address the illness that killed them, or they raise money for a cause that tries to help people like their loved one. They try to address a social problem that's intricately linked to the death of someone, Black Lives Matter, or Blue Lives Matter. But when your grief has meaning, not that it gathers from its source, but from its existence, then it will also feel that it moves. Your grief has direction. Let me share with you how I've tried to give grief meaning about my own mother's addiction. My own mother developing a prescription drug addiction because she was given highly addictive medications carries with it a grief that was very hard for all of us. Of course, for her. It completely sabotaged the last 20 years of her and my dad's life. She mentally and emotionally died long before her body died. Yet I've hoped that by writing about her addiction openly, that I could give meaning to that grief. Maybe someone could benefit from hearing her story. So there are 3 things to try if you're struggling with disillusionment or a belief collapse. Number 1, recognize that it's a normal human experience. Number 2, don't wallow in self-blame or other blame. Instead, look at what sets you up for disillusionment and take responsibility for what is yours. And number 3, learn from it and give your grief meaning.
Speak Pipe message from drmargaretrutherford.com.
Now, let's hear from a listener.
Hi, I'm having a bit of an issue with my partner, my boyfriend of 9 months now. At the beginning, quite a lot at the beginning, he seemed to be excited to see me, keen to make plans. Now it's become that, yes, he does ask to see me during the week and at weekends, but it seems to be almost to keep him company or like a place filler in some way. I don't feel that he is really appreciative of my time or gets excited to see me like I do him, or really thinks that I'm special, I guess. Just like some help with how to talk to him about this, because he very often gets defensive normally, or he'll list off the things that he does do. Thank you.
Wow, I heard such incredible sadness when she said that she doesn't feel that he, quote unquote, thinks that I'm special. Did you hear that sadness? Such a long hesitation before she said anything else. There are several red flags here about this relationship. Number 1, it's been 9 months. That's not very long. And she's already feeling that he's not going to go out of his way to let her know that she's special to him. And she's very confused and sad about it. Here's number 2. Hey guys, the first months of a healthy relationship that has hope to grow means that both people are trying their best to invest in the other person and in the relationship. How many times have I heard something like, man, it was going great for a couple of months, but now she seems to just be busy with her friends, or he doesn't answer my texts, whatever it is. It can be true that your expectations are too needy. Yes, that can happen. But again, in a healthier relationship, a conversation about that would happen as well. One of you would say, I just feel that your expectations of me are greater than I can provide. Now, those words may be a little too therapized for some of you, but just something like that. And you stop the relationship, or you pause it and let whoever it is that is the needy one chew on that for a while, or get therapy about that, or whatever. But you may need to move on after you've talked about it and the needy person learns something and you've set a boundary. Here's the 3rd red flag, and I quote her. He gets defensive and tells me the things that he does do. So that's his response, really? Pretty shitty one. I go back to what I said. If you think someone is too needy, you get out, or you tell them. You don't hang on for whatever you're getting, and then you answer their concerns about not feeling special with some kind of acknowledgement that you can understand that they would feel that way. Something like, I've been distracted lately, or whatever it is. Give me another chance, whatever. Instead, his defensive response may certainly suggest that he's staying in the relationship for what he's getting out of it and doesn't care much that she's unhappy. So if after 9 months the magic has ended, you don't stay in a honeymoon phase forever. That would be ridiculous. But if you're being used, someone is appreciating how you make them feel, but not giving much in return, then that's getting very close to that person having narcissistic traits. I showed you lots of care and love at first, but now you're simply supposed to be there when I need you. You're the satellite and I'm the planet you're circling. Well, that's a bunch of, as we say in Arkansas, hogwash. So like we said in the episode itself about disillusionment, I'd recommend to this listener that if she's doubting his ability or desire to show her she's special to him, and he gets defensive after 9 months, then it may be time to move on. Be disillusioned, grieve, but hanging on is not commitment. I haven't talked about a little book that Christine and I worked on several years ago. If you have friends that are getting married or they're having a wedding anniversary, there's a little gift book you could give them. It's written by me with beautiful photos by an old friend of mine, Deborah Strauss, and my wonderful Christine Matthias, who's been with me now for 10 or 12 years, which is wonderful. It's a little thin gift book called Marriage is Not for Chickens. When it was featured as a post on HuffPost, it earned over 200,000 likes and over 50,000 shares. And it's available wherever you buy books. The PhD workbook is also available, as well as the original book on perfectly hidden depression. And if it's not for you, it might be a good way to tell a friend or a loved one that you're concerned about them. Maybe you notice that although they're going through something that would be hard for anyone, they just don't talk about it. And last but not least, contact me if you'd like to talk about me speaking to your group about the pain of perfectionism. I'd love to. Subscribe to the website at drmargaretrutherford.com, and you could go there to contact me, and subscribe wherever you listen. That means you'll get downloads of everything that I do, at least here on the podcast, and that helps people believe that they should advertise on SelfWork. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. I know you have a choice, and I hope this episode on disillusionment has been helpful to you. Please take care of yourself, your loved ones, as well as your community. I'm Dr. Margaret, and this has been SelfWork.